But remember, when America sneezes, the world catches a cold. And like the mark of the beast crisis, it's going to begin here. The Sunday law movement. And so we're not just talking about the Sunday law, but everything that's connected to the Sunday law is making its way in darkness. And so we need to hasten our foot.
Let's get started.
Dear friends, as a long-term sponsor of the European Sunday Alliance, I'm proud to support the goal of ensuring the work-free Sunday. A synchronized week time of rest is very important in our fast-paced world. The work culture of modern society doesn't leave enough of time to enjoy with our loved ones. Children spend more and more time online. This not only affects their relationship with parents, grandparents and siblings, but also seriously impacts their development and mental health.
The case McGowan versus Maryland ruled that Sunday laws are constitutional for as long as they have a secular purpose. Furthermore, the Supreme Court in the United States also ruled in the Two Guys versus McGinley and Brownfeld versus Brown that a Pennsylvania state law that required certain types of retail businesses to close on Sunday did not violate the First Amendment's free exercise clause. McGowan versus Maryland was not an isolated case. What we have seen today is a very strong legal premise upon which a national Sunday law can very easily be passed and deemed constitutional.
All the ingredients of the persecution of God's end-time people are already in place. COVID-19 has unwittingly revealed to us that the ingredients are already in place.
In case you're wondering how persecution will happen, watch till the end.
So based on what we are witnessing with COVID-19, what could these ingredients look like for those who are faithful to God in the final crisis of true worship, to fear God as the Creator, and worship Him on the Sabbath day, or to follow a false day of worship imposed by the papacy, that is the Sunday? What could some of those ingredients of persecution look like? Well, if we just tweak a few words here and there, this is what may well happen. We may see that those who are faithful to God will see that their civil and religious liberties will be revoked, and their First Amendment rights will evaporate. They will be meaningless. We will see the closure of all church buildings, of all church colleges, of all church unions, administrative offices, and church entities. We will not be able to gather together for worship, for prayer meetings, or for evangelism of any kind. We may be deplatformed on social media and cancelled from public culture. We may lose our ability to put stuff online. Internet service providers may refuse to deal with us, and so we are cut off from the wider world. Our ability to buy, to sell, to bank, and to travel will be suspended for all time, that is, until Jesus comes again. Our savings, our retirement accounts, or our IRAs, our investment accounts will all be frozen, never to be used again. Our financial resources will be gone once and for all, and unable to pay for our mortgages or our rents for our homes or our businesses. We will be forced from our homes, and all of our possessions will be stripped from us, and our businesses will be taken from us as well. We will be demonized across the political spectrum and in all media. As Jesus said, and I quote from Mark 13:13, "You will be hated by all men for my name's sake." We will be hounded by mobs in the streets of social justice warriors, and by state bureaucrats drunk on the absolute powers that emergency declarations seemingly give to them. Track and trace apps on our phones will trace our every movement, and our smart devices will record every word that we ever utter. The only thing I suggest to you today that stands between us and that final persecution is a political excuse to turn these ingredients upon God's faithful remnant. We are very close to the final persecution of God's faithful people. So how do we respond to the reality of this persecution that is coming this way? Well, perhaps the two most commonly heard expressions or sayings you hear related to persecution in our world today are, number one, "Oh, persecution will never happen here," and number two, "We never thought persecution could happen here."
There you go.
These are the two most commonly heard expressions among Christians relating to persecution today. Again, persecution could never happen here, and then we never thought that persecution could happen here.
And it did.
Okay, we have seen that Sunday can be taken constitutional, therefore making it a law of the state. And this means that those who break this law will be punished. Now I'm going to put a picture here to show how these people will be punished and how this will apply in the future. Now, if you take a good look at this, we see that the death penalty has been restored. Let us look at a video where they give us why the restoration of the penalty was done. But before we get to that, let's look at this Project 2025 mandate for leadership. It's quite clear that a Sabbath rest is being advocated for. We should also remember that the death penalty was signed by President-elect Donald Trump at his inauguration this year in January. In the video I'm about to show you, we'll see that the death penalty extends to cases that do not even involve murder.
Similarly, Project 2025 calls for the next administration to execute every person who is currently sitting on federal death row. In Chapter 17 on page 554, Project 2025 states that the country should do everything possible to obtain finality for the 44 prisoners currently on federal death row. Now, this chapter was written by a man named Gene Hamilton. He's a former Trump official who also proposed expanding capital punishment for crimes that do not involve murder. That do not involve murder. That do not involve murder. Something which the Supreme Court rejected more than a decade ago in a case called Kennedy v. Louisiana, citing, quote, the evolving standards of decency that mark the progress of a maturing society, end quote.
That's what you voted for.